Pretty well. I almost don't make it today. I was in a meeting. I was supposed to be live 15 minutes ago, but I was in the middle of a meeting. I couldn't get out of it. But here we are. As promised, I'm gonna be broadcasting live Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time, 4:30 Central time, 5:30 Eastern. So today I want to talk to you about a few topics that I outlined in the description of this live. The first one that I want to share with you, it's a personal story about entrepreneurship. It actually comes from my grandfather on my mother's side. I was lucky enough to grow up in a family where the entrepreneurial spirit, has been passed through generations. So, my grandparents were entrepreneurs, my parents were entrepreneurs. A lot of my closest relatives were entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs. So I grew up in these environments where I saw, my family starting businesses from scratch, and some of them being very successful at them, and some others also. So the story I want to share with you today is the story of my grandpa. He started working at a very young age. I think he was 5-6 years old when he started selling stuff at the market in the little town where he grew up in Mexico. And from there, he turned 18. He started a coffee plantation and started saving some money. And because of those savings, he decided to go into the movie industry. And that's the story I want to share with you. So the first time that he opened a movie theater, he was 21, 22 years old. And he started it in the little town where he grew up. Then he moved to another area in Mexico where he opened a second movie theater. And for those that do not know, movie theaters in those years, like in the 50s, 60s, the 70s, they were something like new, and people were so excited about it, and you could see like lines and lines of people to try to get to the movie theater. So my father was one of them, was one of those lucky entrepreneurs that jump into an industry that grew up so much, and he was able to make some good profits out of it. So the story goes like this, right? When satellite dishes and cable and all that started to become extremely popular, I remember my grandfather saying to me, "You know what, Taide? I think I'm gonna have to close the movie theater because people are renting movies, they have cable, so there is no need for the movie theater." So that was his philosophy, around the late 80s, early 90s, right? On the other side, where I grew up in Morelia, Michoacan, there was this the Ramirez family, and I think like the dad of the Ramirez children probably started his movie theater close to when my grandpa started it, but there were two different mindsets, two different mentalities about the business. My grandpa just went with the flow, and he make a good profit, when the industry was like super hot and everyone wanted to go to movie theaters and stuff. And the Ramirez family, they started to see like ways to innovate within the movie theater industry. Short story is, my grandpa's movie theater closed 2 years ago. So the movie theater was open for 75 years, which I think it's a huge accomplishment also. But the movie theater was open for 75 years. he ended up closing the first location that he opened, so he only ended up with one. So he had two, and he ended up with one. The Ramirez family started with one, and now they are the fourth largest movie theater chain in the world that started in Morelia, Michoacan, by entrepreneurs from my home state, and that's Cinépolis. Maybe some of you have visited some of these movie theaters. You know, if you're in California, in Mexico, they're all over the place. They have movie theaters in India and some other places. So, you know, from one movie theater that is close to another one that is the fourth largest movie theater chain in the world. Why? Because they innovated, they were on top of trends, they optimized the operation of the business, they were very visionary about where the industry was going and the things that they needed to do, not just to survive, but also to thrive, right? They wanted to survive and thrive in the marketplace. And Cinépolis, like I said, it's a huge movie theater chain in the world. And that leads me into one of the reasons why I started the Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce, because I have seen it in my family, you know, from direct experiences. Those that are doing well or have done well is because they have innovated in the way that they provide customer service in everything that they do, you know, and how they manage their operation. If they have websites, if they don't have websites, you know, they're the ones that have websites, they're doing better. So when I look at these success stories and not so successful stories within my family, I know what it takes to start a business, you know, which is kind of like the way that a lot of my relatives started their businesses is the same way that a lot of small businesses start here in America, in the Latino community, and in you know, business owners in general, with savings, loans, credit cards, etc. So from that experience and knowing how hard it is to start a business, I felt like helping in one area that I know that is gonna make a huge impact in the operation and the success of a business to stay in business, which is having that digital presence, which I've been talking about since 2008. So it is important for you as a business owner to understand that right now you have no choice. You have to understand how important it is to have an online presence for your business, because if you are in business, I don't want you to be my grandpa, you know, like, and you know, hopefully your business can survive 75 years. Again, I feel like that was a huge accomplishment on my grandpa's movie theater, that he was able to be in business for 75 years. Movie theaters stay open even after he passed away. So not too many businesses can make it that far. In that situation, you know, there were environmental factors that play a role in helping the movie theater to stay open for that long. But I also know that a lot of small businesses don't want to be like a Cinépolis. They don't want to be like a huge company, you know, with a lot of overhead and stuff. I get that, because some of the business owners that come to us as like, Taide, I don't want to grow my business to like, you know, $5-10 million. As crazy as that sounds, it's like, I just want to be able to pay my bills, have be able to provide to my family, and enjoy life, right? Whatever concept of enjoying means to them. It could be cars, homes, traveling, etc. But what we need to be aware right now is that we have different tools, we have access to different resources that can allow us to become a Cinépolis in the marketplace if we want to go that route. So right here, what I want you to keep out of this personal story is that innovation is important in your business. Right now you have heard the concept of digital transformation and the digital economy and all that. So it is important that you embrace some of the opportunities that the digital economy has to offer for your business, so you don't become the movie theater like my grandpa, that 75 years later he had to put that message on top: adiós y gracias a todos por 75 años. Fin. You know, the impact that this movie theater had in the town where it was very meaningful, you know, for the community and stuff. And I think that's why it survived for so long, because the community embraced it. You know, like there were thousands and thousands of families that went through that movie theater. Children that became parents, bringing their own children, and I think that's why the movie theater lasts that long. But not too many businesses have the opportunity to be embraced by a tribe like my grandpa's movie theater. And the same thing for Cinepolis. You know, they have grown so much because they have been embraced by a tribe to consumers that love the brand, love the customer service, love their facilities, and the experience that they have to provide. So all these little things that you need to keep in mind with your own business. So now, knowing that, coming from that story, we know that in the US there are over 30 million small businesses right now. We know, based on the last data that we have access to, that almost half of them do not have an online presence. About 10 million believe that their operation is so small that they don't need a digital presence. There are others that want to get into the digital economy and start participating in the digital economy, but they don't know where to go. They don't know where to have access to it. There may be some folks out there thinking like, I don't believe your thesis of you saying that if a small business wants to have access to the or to sell online, that they won't be able to make it happen. The problem with people that think like that is that they are not familiarized with some of the necessities that certain communities in the marketplace have. And I'll give you an example. I'm going to talk about the Hispanic business community just because I know it so well. I've been working with Hispanic-owned businesses for the last 13 years, and I can tell you that a big percentage of them, if you talk to them about WordPress, domains, hosting, and e-commerce store, they are gonna have no clue of what you're talking about. You may say like, oh, Shopify, they won't even know what Shopify is because they live in a different world. And not too many organizations are reaching out to these demographics or to this group of business owners because they don't have the time, it's not financially sustainable, they are not interested in helping them out. So, you know, whatever is sexy at the top, that's where they're going to allocate their money, you know, to support small businesses. But when we look at the numbers and we realize how many small businesses in America don't have an online presence, for me, it's something to worry about, because we're talking about not being as competitive as other nations that are right now are investing a lot of money specifically into addressing that important economic issue, which is how can we embrace technology as a country and support the backbone of our economy, small businesses. And there are programs, there are initiatives specifically at helping small businesses to have an online presence and to be able to sell their products and services online. Forget about all those like technical assistance where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna show you like how to run Excel, or I'm gonna tell you like how to write a business plan. I'm not saying that any of that is not important, but when you're talking to micro business owners which have very limited time, and oftentimes they have, you know, like limited education, so they just understand like how to create the product that they are creating, and somehow they kind of like find out how to sell it. That's what they understand. So if you can help them with the last part of the equation, which is like help them sell more, something that they understand, without getting too much into like, oh, I'm gonna put you in a 12-week program that they're not gonna complete, or they won't be motivated to go through the whole process, because it's just gonna be like a completely different language for a lot of these folks, but they wanna sell. So my vision, since I started the Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce, is like, how can we facilitate access to resources that can help these small businesses to accomplish what they really want? They just want to sell more. I don't think that we have the time to be like creating business owners with, bachelor's degree in business, right? We just have to equip them with what is necessary for them to compete more effectively in the marketplace. And as the business start growing, they can bring other experts to the business that can help them, with the cash flow, with the operation. They can hire more qualified people, that can help the business to start solidifying their position in the marketplace. But for now, when we're talking about half of the total amount of small businesses in our country that don't have a digital presence, for me that's very worrisome, because we need to help them out to become more competitive in the marketplace. And one way of doing it is through the digital economy. So if we want to help, all these small businesses that do not have an online presence, we have to equip them and provide them like access to practical tools that can help them to accomplish that goal. Out of the 4,000 plus chambers of commerce that are in the country, I think all of us have the responsibility to start talking about this in a more meaningful and proactive way, so we can start making that transition. Eventually, it would be great if we could have 90% of the small businesses connected to the digital economy. That is also a top priority for us, to help small businesses that are in rural America. I have seen so many cases of farmers that are losing their produce and stuff because they couldn't find ways to market and to sell those produce. So we need to help them out. If they don't have access to the internet, companies should start investing in increasing broadband access across rural America. And I know that there are a lot of initiatives and there is a lot of money coming specifically for that purpose, which I think is great. But once that happens, when that little piece of the equation happens, then we have to help them out so they can start selling their products and services online. The trends are not blind. I mean, the digital economy is one of the biggest contributors to the GDP in our country now. So again, if we take a look at the trends, at the numbers, of how consistently the growth of the digital economy has happened over the last 13 years, it's something that we cannot ignore, and we have to keep investing time and resources to help small businesses to participate more actively in the digital economy. We have some industries that have a very high penetration, but we have many others that their participation is very minimum. We have a lot of micro enterprises that have zero participation in the digital economy, so we need to change that. I think from my perspective, like business associations, the government, corporations, educational institutions, anyone that is supporting exporters in our country, group purchasing organizations, they need to get involved in this process. We need to invest in digital training for small businesses. We need to invest in trade and export educations for small businesses, because at the end of the day, any business a small business that already has an online store, pretty much the moment that someone creates an online store, that business, from my perspective, it becomes global. And the moment that you ship something out of the country, you are an exporter. Even if you are not like registered as one, your business automatically became global the moment that you ship from something from here, from the US to Europe or to anywhere in Latin America, Asia, Africa, you name it, right? So that's why it is important to also have very practical programs that it address the importance of exporting your products to other countries, and you can do it through your digital presence. It's easier than ever before. We need to help small businesses to grow and compete more effectively in domestic and global markets. We need to invest in ways to make it easier for small businesses, regardless of geographic location, to use technology to run their business. And not just geographic location, also their zip code. There are many areas in California where there are micro enterprises that have never heard about us, and I'm talking about Hispanic Chamber of E-commerce or U.S. Business Association of E-commerce or U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. They have never heard of any association that they feel that they are going to do something for them, right? They have never heard of us. They probably have heard of some programs from, by the city and stuff, but they don't really do a proactive effort to get these micro enterprises involved in the digital economy. And that's why we have so many American small businesses that are not connected to the internet and they are not doing transactions online, because if you don't provide resources to do that outreach, it's going to be very difficult to make it happen. And the problem is right now, because it is not sexy to provide grants or money to support those businesses. The organizations that are trying to do something, they're getting very little support, and it is impossible to make that transition. So anyone that has some type of leadership in the business community, I think that they need to start being a little more outspoken about this issue that is affecting the growth and development of our economy. I believe that one way for us to fight poverty, to fight homelessness, and to fight other issues that are affecting our economy and our society is by providing more access to resources to middle-class Americans and to small businesses. But just because they are right in the middle, where you're not at the top and you're not really at the bottom, so oftentimes many people forget about them, or they feel like, no, they're fine, they can do it, they can make it on their own. But that's not the case. So in this situation where we're talking about how important it is to support small businesses, but through practical, meaningful programs, not just we create this whatever program and we're helping 200 small businesses a year and they're getting $1 million for that. Invest $1 million in supporting micro enterprises to get online, and you will see the economic impact that will have in our economy with metrics. The beauty about the internet is that you can measure everything, and you will see the impacts, that the metrics that something like that can create, from job creation, from revenue, from average salaries of people working in these businesses, etc. The economic impact can be very meaningful, and it's time for more organizations to start collaborating together to create this online ecosystem where it is easy for small businesses to have access to everything that they need to survive and thrive in the digital economy. Now, we have heard a lot about social equity and sustainability, and the one thing that I think is going to help to accomplish social equity and sustainability is social business models, digital entrepreneurs that are creating economic opportunities for the low income areas where they live. We have seen it in countries like Latin America where there is a lot of poverty. There have been some successful programs in some areas in Latin America where they have been able to reduce poverty through entrepreneurship and through the access to the internet, because these people now can find jobs, they can find business ideas that they can translate into a business opportunity. So again, I believe that organizations that are supporting businesses and any other areas within our society that are connected to the digital economy will help to equally connect everyone to everything, and that way we can start thinking about a more inclusive economic development. Last but not least, yesterday I was on Twitter, and I saw this tweet from someone that I follow and I respect, because of the work that he is doing. And he shared this article about, the government says, the article says the government is here to help small businesses unless they are cooperatives. And the article talks about, like why these consumer-owned cooperatives, COPs, don't have access to SBA loans, and the article, explains or gives some reasons why they don't have access to it. But it is hard for me to understand why someone that is doing so much good in the community through an inclusive business project, it's so difficult for them to have access to the resources that can help them to keep providing that economic impact in the community, right? So that's kind of like going back to my previous slide right there that I just showed you. We need to find ways to provide access to capital and access to resources to any social entrepreneur that is trying to make a change in our society. There are some cases, and I'll probably share some next week, of people, in the South, where they created like neighborhood farms to be able to provide food to the people in around those blocks. And they create that, because of their heart and how committed they are to their community, and they want to see their community to be somehow successful, considering the limited access that they have to resources and money and other programs. So I feel like every time that there is someone that is trying to help out the community in a meaningful way, there should be ways to help them out, to support them. So if you have cooperatives that have a really good business model and they just need a little access to capital to kind of like ramp up the operation and have a more meaningful impact in the community, there should be ways to support them. So part of the article says, the agency talking about the SBA that's supposed to support and promote small business is single-handed shutting down the growth of an entire business sector, and they have been doing it for years. So I get the concerns of the SBA, and what oftentimes I feel like people forget about it is like all the money that the government is giving away right now, or that they are investing in programs and initiatives, is coming from the taxes that we pay. So it's not like the government's money, is the American people's money. So the government, as an administrator of the money, they want to make sure that they get it back so they can keep a sustainable operation, and then they keep funding other business that eventually are going to need the financial support, right? So, I took it back and I said, like, you know what, maybe some charity companies can create like a bond that can guarantee the obligation with a third party. And there are industries that are operating like that, and the liability is in the millions and millions of dollars on a monthly basis, and the charity companies have no problem, and they have been very successful at running those bonds. I mean, they make the profit. Of course, there is a risk, but somehow, some way, they can kind of like limit that risk. So I think in the case of social entrepreneurs, there should be a mechanism that could facilitate that, like give the opportunity for social entrepreneurs to have access to capital. I feel like oftentimes, especially in the angel investors, the VC world, the banks and stuff, it's all like profit, profit, profit. If I invest, $1 in your concept, I want to get like 15 in return or whatever, and that just has helped to create this like wealth gap and make it like bigger and bigger every year. So we need more companies and foundations and stuff that understand that some of these grants probably are not gonna get, or the funding or whatever, they're not gonna get the return that they expect on a tech startup or something like that, but the economic impact that these projects are going to have in the community are going to help our country to reduce poverty, increase and improve the well-being of Americans. So, it's something to keep in mind moving forward, especially coming out of this pandemic. Those are the little things that we need to take into consideration. It's definitely not going to be business as usual. And for those organizations that are providing access to resources to different segments within our community that we know that they're going to make a difference in what they do, we should support them. We should support them, and especially support the small business community, specifically the micro enterprises, that they create so many jobs. When you put them all together, they create more jobs than the largest corporations in America. So there is no reason for us not to support micro entrepreneurs in a meaningful way, help them survive, help them thrive, and that's going to help our economy as a whole. So these are some of the topics that I wanted to talk to you today about. Bottom line at the end of all this chit chat is that I want you to really think about how you're gonna get your business into the digital economy, what areas within your business you can optimize to become more lean, more efficient at everything that they do by using the right software, the right technology. How can you become part of this open coming and growing really fast industry that is called the new economy or the digital economy? How can you be involved in this new process that is revolutionizing many different industries around the world and of course in our country? So we need to do anything that we can to actively participate in the digital economy. We have to have our online store, we have to have our website or some type of digital presence, because it's a top priority right now. It's not luxury, it's a necessity. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I'll connect with you on Monday. Monday is our presentation in Spanish, and then we have our seminar on Wednesday, which we have been doing it, for a few weeks now, and it's a way for us to give members of the association the opportunity to showcase their products, services, and everything that they do, and it has worked out really well so far. Many of you have learned from chamber members, association members, and at the same time, some of you have ended up doing business with them, which is also really good because it's just part of this ecosystem that I was telling you about earlier. So thank you for watching. Have a beautiful day and a very relaxed weekend. And let's get ready for another productive week next week. Thank you so much. Take care.